Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the BetRivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you this morning for our Football Friday program on the Mike Francesa channel, on the BetRivers Network, on YouTube. And you've heard me say when we talk about the NFL, first thing, it's early September. Before you know it, you snap your fingers, it's week 9 and it's Halloween. Well, here it is, folks. Week 9. Halloween's gone. It's now November, month of decision. It's not only the month of decision, we have an election Tuesday, a big one. It's also the trading deadline in the NFL Tuesday. But November is the month of decision in the NFL too. It's because when you start to separate the pretenders from the contenders. The cream starts to rise to the to the top in November. So the kinks have been worked out. You've decided who you want to play. You've started to mold your lines. You've started to make the changes and put the team on the field that you want for the stretch drive. Hopefully, you're in a position to have a stretch drive. You haven't been decimated by injuries. You haven't had a terrible, nightmarish start. And then away you go, because that's what it is. It's front and center. And you have a couple of weeks. And then comes Thanksgiving Thursday. And when Thanksgiving Thursday hits, from that moment, the NFL goes into complete overdrive, into its stretch run for the rest of the season. And it's every day and relentless and really round the clock. And that's where we are a couple of weeks away from. But November is the month of decision. And now it's no longer, early. It's now about getting it done and getting it done in a big way. Now, last night, the Jets kept their fleeting hopes alive with a 21-13 win over the Texans and a big second half from Aaron Rodgers, who had probably the worst first half of his career and came out in the second half on a night when the Jets were still making countless mistakes and put up a big second half, 15-18, 179, 3 touchdowns. And like I said on the podcast last night, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Jets this morning, it was the first time 8 looked like 12. It's the first time I saw the real Aaron Rodgers behind center last night. And it made a difference. Having Adams made a difference for Wilson, made a difference for Rodgers. Reddick, with what he brings, the Jets had 8 sacks last night. McDonald's maturity. They have to go out and get themselves a plugger. They have to go out and get themselves a run stopper because they have to be better against the run, and they're getting moved way too much. They've had trouble setting an edge all year. They're going to have trouble against mobile quarterbacks. They'll see one next Sunday night and next Sunday day. They think they can run the table. You like their brand of optimism, if nothing else. But like I said, let them get to 6-6 before you take them seriously. They're 3-6. They should be 6-3 or 7-2. It's shameful that they're 3-6. They're so much better than that, but they continue to cause themselves all kinds of misery. And they tried again last night, roughing the punter, roughing the snapper, throwing balls away before they get in the end zone on easy touchdown runs. I mean, just stupid stuff. And that's got to go away. It's got to go away. But it was nice to see 12 show up for the first time all season. Now, we'll get to some emails later. Week 9. You're in the middle of the season now. You've hit November. And away we go. Plus, the trade deadline is Tuesday, so the guys know that's it. There's your lineup. There's your team the rest of the way. All right. Washington off their miracle win last week against the Bears, a game they should have won. They had one of those games where you had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to score. You didn't score. You settled for field goals. You left the Bears in the game. Bears make a couple of plays. Now the Bears have a lead, and you're like, what the heck happened? And then Daniels executes. Really, the Bears messed it up completely on both ends, the front end and the back end. Messed it up. And the Commanders stole one. And it's been a long time since Washington has stolen one from anybody. So it has to be a good feeling. They come storming in to take on the beleaguered Giants, who cannot win at home, cannot score at home. And the Giants have to be just pea green with envy because they want so much to be where Washington is. And they want that dynamic quarterback to come in and turn them around. And that's exactly what has happened in Washington. Daniels has turned them around. It began slowly. They won a game against the Giants they should have lost. It began slowly. Okay. And next thing you know, they beat Cincinnati in a game where you thought, how could they beat Cincinnati? You know, they went there that night, and I thought, no way. You know, Cincinnati's gonna put a 40 on them. And Cincinnati could put a 40 on them. I mean, and did move the ball on them all night, but Cincinnati, with their awful defense, could not make Washington give up the football. And you watched as Daniels just commanded the offense in such a way that it made such a big difference. It really did. And it really impressed. You had a different way you looked at this team now. It even started a little bit in the Giant game. The Giants should have won that game. They lose at 21-18. We know what happened with the kicking game and everything else. But winning games like that, like the Giant game or the Cincinnati game, changed the fortunes. And then last week, changed the fortunes of this franchise to where they now believe in this quarterback. And, you know, he's not only looking at being rookie of the year, he's looking at being an MVP candidate. That's how dynamic he's been. He's got 7 touchdowns, 2 intercepts. He's got 4 touchdowns rushing. His running is a big issue. He's run for 450 yards or so. And he's a dynamic player. Giants have been pitiful at home. They've been much better on the road, but they've been pitiful at home. Can't score. And they need to give their fans a big effort at home and some excitement at home. Can they do that this week? Let's see. They probably won't have Tracy, who's really become a nice player at running back because he's in the concussion protocol. Cowboys still all banged up on defense. Get the Falcons. Cousins has been what the Falcons had hoped for, but the Falcons have got to get a little better on defense. And they have to find somebody to rush the quarterback. Fourth quarter pass rush becomes incredibly important in games that are going to lead you to the playoffs or games against playoff level competition or in the playoffs themselves. You have to have fourth quarter pass rush. They don't have any pass rush. They're last in the league in sacks. They have 6 sacks, the Falcons. Giants have 35 to lead the league. The Falcons have 6. They've got to be able to pressure the quarterback. Now, Cousins is doing his job. He's got 14 touchdowns. He's had a lot of prolific passing days. He threw for 4 touchdowns last week. He's going to cut the Cowboys up unless the Cowboys get a lot healthier between now and Sunday. Dolphins, banged up, listless, going nowhere, get the Bills, who are going to coast to a division title. That's up in Buffalo. Raiders, going absolutely nowhere. Get the Bengals going absolutely nowhere at 3-5. Bengals are not only banged up, their quarterback's playing well, but their defense is awful. The Bengals window has closed. Now, what they have to do is they have the quarterback. They have to now go to phase two in Burrow's career. They had phase one, it did not produce the championship that they hoped for. They now have to go to phase two and rebuild the franchise around him while he's still here. That's what has to happen. And if not, there's going to be a lot of changes, no question. Chargers playing solid in Harbaugh's first year, getting some good performances from key people, a lot of low scoring games. At the Browns, how different was it for the Browns last week? Jameis Winston last week threw for almost as many yards as Watson had thrown for all year. I mean, Watson had 5 touchdown passes in 7 weeks. He had 3 last week. Winston threw for 334. He put some excitement into the Cleveland offense. Winston to Tillman's become a big combo already. If you were shrewd enough to grab Tillman 2 weeks ago, if you needed somebody in your fantasy thing, he's going to have a big second half if Winston's there. Are the Browns going to trade any defenders before the deadline? Let's see. Pats and Titans, who cares? Saints and Panthers, again, who cares? It looks like Carr's coming back. Young's going to start a quarterback again. Carolina's the worst team in the league. They might as well let Young play. He was a little better last week, but still a one-sided loss in Denver. They're just not very competitive right now. Saints opened the season with 2 wins, got decimated by injuries, have lost 6 straight games. Panthers are 1-7. Saints should be able to get their 3rd win this week, especially with Carr coming back. Broncos and Ravens, give Sean Payton a lot of credit with what he's done in Denver quickly. The defense is really good, and they get Surtain back this week. Nix is maligned because he doesn't have a great arm, but he knows how to manage the game well, and he's getting better and better and better. Now they get the Ravens. Ravens, they can score with anybody. Their defense has got to be more consistent. They went out and got another weapon this week, but their defense has to grow from here if they're going to make a real run at Kansas City this year. Jags, 2-6. At the Eagles, who have started to put it together. Eagles have been impressive the last couple of weeks. They're now 5-2. They have a chance. That Eagles and Washington are going to be big games in the NFC East this year. Bears at 4-3, coming off a devastating loss on the Hail Mary. A devastating loss. They get the Cards, who are 4-4. The Cards are dangerous. They're up, they're down, but they're dangerous. Bears defense is good. And the quarterback is getting better by the week. So they're playing better. They're not there yet, but they are playing better. Big game. Really big game. The Lions, who are the best team in the NFC. Before the season started, I thought it would be Lions against Packers or Ravens. I mean, Lions against Chiefs or Ravens. I thought the Ravens were the only team that would dethrone the Chiefs. I thought the Chiefs were going to coast in their division. They will. It doesn't mean they have to go to another Super Bowl. Their offense has to get better. The defense was really good. Lions at 6-1. You'd like to see them get a little better on defense, but their offense is unbelievable. Last 4 games, they've scored 42, 47, 31, and 52. They have the best offensive line. They have an incredible array of weapons. Packers can score with anybody, and the Packers, as I told you 4 or 5 weeks ago, I thought the teams that could have the biggest improvement during the season would be the Ravens and the Packers. The Packers have done a really good job considering Love's been in and out of the lineup like 3 times. This week, it sounds like he's going to come back and play again despite the groin injury. Fascinating game. Could go either way. Figure is high scoring. Maybe last one with the ball. I think the Lions are better right now, though. Packers keep winning close games. Neither team's great on defense. I think the Lions are going to win. Close. Rams, who are right back in it, get the Seahawks at 4-4. Both teams are always dealing with injuries. Looks like the Rams are going to be able to, when the Rams have their running back, their 2 wide receivers, and their quarterback running that offense, they're good. Seahawks, Metcalf might not even miss a week. They thought he was going to miss some time. He looks like he might play this week. That's a big game. 3-4, 4-4 in the division. Big game. Sunday night, Colts 4-4. Richardson's been benched for Flacco. Flacco is better as a reliever. I don't think this is the way to play this. I think the coach in Indianapolis knows what he's doing. I don't think this is the way to play this. I think that he had the perfect setup where he can start Richardson and then bring Flacco off the bench any game he wants when Richardson isn't doing the job. Richardson's missing receivers or throwing picks or making mistakes, put Flacco in. But Richardson knows, all right, I'm going to root for Flacco. I'm going to be the starter next week. I thought they could do that week after week after week. Before a lot of you ever even knew what the NFL was, you weren't old enough. Washington did this with a guy named Billy Kilmer. The Raiders did it with a guy named Darryl LaMonica. Bring a veteran off the bench. They used to do it with a guy going back to the old days with a guy named George Blanda. You don't have a quarterback controversy. You have a veteran, proven quarterback as the veteran backup. And when you need him, you call the bullpen and you put him in. He's watched the defense. He knows the sport inside and out. And when you need him, you call him in. You put the kid on the bench and you let the old man try to win the game for you. Then the next week, you put the kid back in. It's the kid's team. The kid doesn't feel threatened. A lot of people don't agree with this, but this is not a quarterback issue. This is a quarterback system. And it works when you have a veteran who understands that's his role. I got to go bail the game out. I watched for 2 quarters. Now I'll pick the defense apart. And that's what Flacco is better at. When he comes in, you've designed your defense to play Richardson, to play his talents, to play against his ability to run and all the different things he brings. And then all of a sudden, Flacco now is giving the ball to Taylor and then running his receivers 25 and 30 yards down the field every play. So I think it works perfectly. They've now upset the apple cart by saying Flacco's the quarterback. He got mad at Richardson's mistake, so now he's giving Flacco the job. I wouldn't have done that, but we'll see how it works out. As I told you, the Colts right now are going through a vicious part of their schedule. Okay? And they have been the masters of the one-score game. They are 4-4 right now. They're 4-4. Last week, they lost to the Texans for the second time, 23-20. On the season, they lost by 2. They lost by 6. They won by 5. They won by 3. They lost by 3. They won by 3. They won by 6. They lost by 3. Every single decision, 1 score. Most of them 3 or fewer. Now, They're 4-4. Last week they played Houston. They've already played them twice and lost to them twice. This week they're playing Sunday night in the primetime game against Minnesota. Next week they're playing in the primetime game against the Jets. Then the week after that, they have the Lions. The week after that, they now go soft. So they have Texans for the second time. Texans have beat them by 2 and by 3. They now have Minnesota, then the Jets on the road, and then the Lions. Then they finish, right? They're 4-4 right now. They finished New England. You have a bye week. They play Denver. They play Tennessee. And they play Jacksonville. I mean, last week they played the Giants. Excuse me, not the Jacksonville, the Giants. If they can win, I said this last week, if they can win one of these games from the last 4 weeks, they already lost the first one, Houston. I said it before the Houston game. Houston, Minnesota, Jets, Lions. If they can win one of those games, that would be their 5th win. On the back end, they could run those last games and win 9 or 10 games and put themselves right in the playoff hunt. Right now, they lost the first one. Every game they've played this year is one score. They're 4-4. They are still a threat. But they got to find a way to get one of these games so that they don't lose all 4 of them. And if they do, I think they have a chance to make the playoffs. The Monday night game is the Bucs and the Chiefs. Chiefs the only undefeated team. Bucs are 4-4. They kept scoring last week against Atlanta, even though they lost both receivers. They lost Godwin for the season. They lost Evans for a month. He threw the ball to the tight end, who scored 2 touchdowns. He threw the ball to the running backs. We'll see if he starts throwing the ball to the new wide receivers. The Bucs can score. Their defense is not big time. They're going to be 4-5 this week, probably after playing Kansas City. And let's see what happens from there. Will have lost 3 games in a row. They're not bad. They've been decimated by injuries. We'll see where that takes them. The buys this week for the Steelers, who are 6-2 and in very good shape, and the Niners, who are 4-4 in what's going to be a very competitive division. And they're talking up that they're getting McCaffrey back soon. Let's see how that works out. Now, let me tell you about the squares. You've heard me talk about them plenty of times. The bottom line is, anytime you can get a promotion where you can have a little fun and, you don't have to, it doesn't cost you anything, and you can go out and have a good time. That's the bottom line. And here's the deal. If you play a same game parlay on either college football or the NFL, play your same game parlay, anything, any denomination above $10, and you start to earn squares. The exclusive Squares game offers additional chances at profit boosts, bonus bets, and $10,000 jackpots in bonus money. So, you got 0 to 9 here, you got 0 to 9 there, and you match the score, and you're a big winner. And it doesn't cost you a cent. It gives you some more action, a little fun, spices up the game. So you get the squares as a bonus by playing the same game parlays on college football or any of the NFL games on the slate. That's the bottom line. Emails, Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. Let's see what's on your mind today. and then we'll have a couple of closing thoughts. Let's see. Let me get to them. Here we go. All right. I haven't looked at them yet. Chris starts us off. So many teams have moved on from quarterbacks. Why are the Giants afraid to move on from Daniel Jones? I don't think the Giants are afraid to move on from Daniel Jones. I just don't think they feel they've had a better alternative. Now, they are not committed to him long time. If you watched the very revealing Giants during the offseason, you know that they coveted a couple of these young quarterbacks. They were interested in May. They were very interested in Daniels. They didn't get a chance to get either of them. There's a lot of talk about them scouting quarterbacks for this year's draft. I would not be surprised if they move on from Jones. I think they want to. I think they've made that pretty clear. Mike, will the Mets give Soto $600 million? I think the better question is, will they give him $700 million? I think Boras and Soto want to set the market. I think the union wants him to set the market. Now, remember, the market might be less than $700 million because a lot of the $700 million market is deferred. Ohtani was willing to take a ton of deferred money for a variety of reasons. One of the biggest being that as an international superstar who is immense in the Far East, he's making a fortune. His getting the exposure of the World Series has clearly allowed him to cash in, and he'll cash in dramatically, I'm sure, in the next couple of years with endorsements and commercials, of which he already has a bunch. So real dollars, if they're not talking any deferred money, it might be closer to 600 in real terms. I don't know. I don't know who's going to do what. I do not believe the Dodgers will be involved. They gave $1 billion to Yamamoto and to Ohtani. I cannot see them being involved here. Not having Betts and Freeman and all the players they have, I do not see them getting involved in him. Now, I think Toronto will be involved. It doesn't sound like a very enticing place to go play, but they will be involved. I think the Mets and Yankees will both be involved. I don't know who the final bidder is going to be. I honestly don't see Hal going all the way there. I really don't. Now remember, he's not 30 years old. He's just turned 26. If you were going to make a big commitment, this is the guy to make it to. Do I know what the Mets are going to do or what the Yankees are going to do? I don't. We're going to watch and see. I think it's dead wide open. I think the Yankees and the Mets are heavy favorites. I don't even have another team other than Toronto. I would be shocked, I said, if the Dodgers are involved. After that, I don't know who else could afford these guys. So he made it very clear that the Yankees get no more preference than anybody else. He was very honest about that, very direct about that, but you knew that with Boras in the mix anyway. Phil, what do you need to see from the Jets to think they have a chance to string some wins together? I don't need to see anything. Here's what I need to see: wins. As I told you, I will not take the Jets' postseason hopes seriously until they are 6-6. And if they're not 6-6, don't bother me. 6-6. Is it shameful that it's come to this? Yes. If you ask me what their record should be right now, I would tell you legitimately, without any heavy lifting, their record should be 6-3. Pittsburgh game, loss. San Francisco game, loss. I'll give you one other. Take whichever one you want, Minnesota or Buffalo. I think they should be 6-3. There's no way they should have lost the Denver game. There's no way they should have lost the New England game. If they were 6-3 right now, you would have a very different opinion of the franchise and a very different opinion of the season. And the only way this works is if they win the next 3 games in a row. What is the one move the Yanks must make this offseason? That's a very good question. Listen, I don't think when you're the Yankees and you have the enormity of flexibility that they have because they're the Yankees and because of what their economic model allows them. I know that you want me to say that they have to sign Soto. In my heart of hearts, they don't have to sign Soto to be good next year. If they use the resources that they saved properly. So with them, it's rarely one move. You can't tell me it's a starting pitcher anymore because the value of the starting pitcher has been minimized. There's no way around it. I don't care what he does for you in the regular season, it's been minimized. I mean, Wheeler is as good as it gets right now. And how big is his impact in the postseason? So, I mean, the way that the game is played now, the way everything is approached now, the starting pitcher has been devalued. Now, can he throw his weight around in a given series? Absolutely. But he can also be forgotten very quickly in a given series. I think that this series was a real devastating blow. The fact that they did not complete, see, if they had completed game 5, and forced a game 6, they would have left a very good taste in everybody's mouth that they didn't give up, even if they fell short. Obviously, if they completed it, it would have been remarkable. But even if they fell short in LA, they forced the trip back to LA. They showed tenacity. They won the back 2 games at Yankee Stadium. They showed grit. They didn't fall on their sword in their building. And instead of that happening, what happens? They completely melt down with a 5-0 lead and allow the Dodgers the biggest comeback in baseball history in a clinching game. So they almost get ridiculed and laughed at for their performance in game 5, which makes this a very tough pill to swallow. Couple that with Soto going over to wear a Met uniform, that will be an indignity that will be very hard for the Yankees to digest. So that is the obvious one. But there's so much more than just baseball involved in that. So much about the Met standing in town, the future of the Mets and the Yankees, and everything else. Has Cone been waiting for his moment to fire his salvo with the Yankees? I don't know. I don't know if he wants to play that game. This will, if he takes Soto away, it will be seen as him firing a major missile at the Yankees. And it will be very impactful on how they act towards each other. So we have to wait and see. And it should be very, very interesting. I'm sure the Mets are going to be involved. The Mets would be silly not to be involved. This guy's 26, and he's a great player. Have you liked what you've seen from Williams? Um, Cautiously, very cautiously. I have not been overly impressed. I have not been um, disappointed to a point where I would be worried about it. I'd say it's about what you'd expect. You can see the glimmer, you can see what's there, you can see it getting more comfortable, but it hasn't been overly impressive so far. Tommy, putting politics aside, putting personal politics aside, do you enjoy election day and the election season and the coverage? I love election day. I have always been fascinated by presidential politics. I love election night. What has taken a lot of the history and the joy out of it is all the accusations about it not being on the level. Because spending so much time with so much tedious stuff about that part really has stripped it of its historical perspective and really hurt the whole process. I mean, it's an annoyance. I mean, I'm sick of hearing it. I'm sick of listening to it. And the idea that we would go through that again is nauseating, absolutely nauseating. I would hope that win or lose, that that Donald would, that Trump would take a defeat in stride, but he won't. It's just not his nature. He can't accept defeat on any terms, so that will not happen. If he loses, he'll be screaming just like he did last time, and that is really bad for the country. Um, I'm not getting into an analysis of the candidates. Um, if you're asking me my opinion right now, today, on what I've seen, it's gone back and forth. And this is just being an objective observer now. She took a lead based on her momentum. And now I think she's lost the momentum in the last couple of weeks. I think the momentum towards Tuesday is definitely with Trump. It doesn't mean he's a winner, because this is what you don't know in this country right now. You don't know how many people are telling pollsters what they really are going to do. Are there people who, at this stage of so many years of it being a vote of personality, of whether you like or dislike Trump, do you know how everyone's going to vote in that regard? You don't. You don't know if they're telling you the truth about their support or non-support. Same thing for her. So I don't think we know. They're selling it as being right down male female, but that's a generalization, and I would think for the most part it will. Trump will do very well with men, and she will do very well with women. I think that is obvious, but that doesn't mean we know the whole story there. And clearly, what I also don't like about the whole process now is that it used to be about the nation. Now it is just about these 7 battleground states. The popular vote doesn't matter. Odds are she's going to win the popular vote, whether she wins the election or not. We've seen that on a couple of occasions already, so it's not a big deal. We're used to that already. And everything comes down to these 7 states. I also think that we do a very bad job in this regard. We know how divided everybody is. We know how much anger there is on both sides and contempt on both sides, fueled by networks that promote one side or the other and show no objectivity. Uh, what I don't understand is how the country cannot make the process cleaner in this regard. If you know this is going to be an issue post election, as we await the very tight votes in these states, why not set up a system where these votes can be counted as they arrive and make sure there are federal overseers everywhere who can do a realistic job? And we now live in such a technological age where I think this can be much more efficient and much cleaner. I'm not sure people want it that way because I think a lot of them like the very local appeal of politics. There's an old saying that all politics are local. And I think politicians and people who live in that industry don't want to give away their regional or their local power. But I think when it comes to the presidency, I really believe the vote should be handled not by state, but by a federal government. The federal government should handle just the presidential election. Your local elections, fine. I think the presidential election should be on a separate ballot. I think that day you should actually vote twice. You get your two ballots. You get your local ballot, and then you get your presidential ballot. And I think there should be voting for a whole weekend, no early voting, but we start voting on Friday night at 5 o'clock, and you vote until Sunday at 6 o'clock. So you have all weekend. You have the convenience of voting. You can vote, till say midnight Friday night to 10 o'clock Saturday night until 6 o'clock Sunday. You can vote all weekend. And that vote is handled federally so that it can be safeguarded and it can be done quickly and efficiently. Just the presidential vote, it's once every 4 years. We now have technology that could set up a system like this. And it would take out a lot of the nonsense that you spend years going debating. Oh, this is what's going on in this state. That's what this. Hey, this stuff has been going on. Go back and read your history books. The Nixon and Kennedy campaigns accused each other of stuff all over the map. Chicago was doing this for Kennedy. This one was doing this for Nixon. This one was doing. I mean, this has been going on forever. There's always rumblings about it, but now we live in an age where you could hermetically seal these votes and do it in such a way where, hey, connect it to people's fingerprints, connect it to the iris in their eyes. You can do it in such a way where they know it's your vote, and that's it. We can make this a very clean process. I'm not sure that America's ready for that because I think the politicians feel that they're going to lose their power locally. But the state of the nation is, and a lot of manpower and a lot of angst and everything else goes into this now, where we need a better system. And I don't think we should vote for weeks. I think it should be one national weekend. And sometime over that weekend, you get a chance to vote. You're not going to work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You're going to get a chance sometime during that time to vote. And hey, you can open them up at 6 o'clock on Saturday morning, 6 o'clock on Sunday morning, and run them all day. It gives people plenty of time to vote. And I just think I'm just talking about presidential politics now. I'm not talking about anything else. Other politics are local. They are based on where you live and what your state is and what kind of things are involved in your state. That will never change. We are individual states. We have different likes, dislikes, resources, opinions, things we care about. And that should never change because the diversity is what we're about. But we can do better when it comes to the federal election and to the election of the president. And a lot of that has been lost with the utter contempt that the system has been placed under, the ridicule that the system has been placed under. But to answer the question, I still love it. I will be there. Usually, you don't really, nothing happens until way after 9 o'clock, but I'd be there at 6 o'clock watching it. And I will be watching it at 4 in the morning and 5 in the morning if it's still going. And, you know, and I do love it, I have to admit. But it has lost some of its drama because it is now just about these battleground states. And they are going to be so razor thin. Do you know that there is not a definitive answer to be had in any one of those battleground states right now. A couple of days before the election. And most of the states, you can put a red or a blue in right now. And you're going to be right on every one of them. You're not going to miss one. But those battleground states, hey, you're going to be counting probably into the next couple of days. And then the challenges, and then the lawyers, and then the challenges, then the court cases, blah, blah, blah. And we'll go right up to January again. Part of it's become tedious. Enjoy your football weekend. We'll see you later.